After a heartbreaking loss to the Seattle Storm, the Indiana Fever are now 0-5. A result of that has been a lot of finger-pointing and blaming. The truth is, it isn't just any one person. It's not one person screwing up that's costing them the games. It's multiple players playing substandard basketball and bad coaching that's holding them back. It's the same thing every game. You will have 2 or 3 players playing really well while the rest of the team is playing subpar. And there's some players that aren't even given a chance to do anything at all. In this video, we'll go over why the Indiana Fever are struggling so much. I'll start with Caitlin Clark. If Caitlin Clark plays like she did against Seattle for the rest of the season, Indiana is in great shape. Even though they didn't win, Caitlin Clark had some major growth that game. No one wants to say it out loud, but before the Seattle game, Caitlin Clark was not playing winning basketball. Yes, she put up a lot of points. She had some really nice passes too, but she was playing zero defense. And she was turning the ball over way too much. Before the game she had against Seattle, Caitlin Clark had a total of 22 assists to 26 turnovers. Indiana isn't going to win many games if she does that. Some of those were her teammates dropping a pass, but a lot of her turnovers are because she lost the ball or threw a pass that looked open but it really wasn't. But the Seattle game was a lot different. Her effort on defense was significantly better. She got multiple stops and the person she was guarding actually had to work for their shot. She had 7 assists to only 3 turnovers. She was inefficient in terms of field goal percentage, but Indiana can play around that by getting better at rebounding. But what Indiana can't overcome is when she turns the ball over 8 or 10 times in a basketball game. The Los Angeles game will be very telling. This will show us if Caitlin is on the right track, or if the Seattle game was an aberration when it comes to her passing and turnovers. I'm very worried about Aliyah Boston. There were bad signs in the preseason, but I wanted to see more games before making a judgment. Aliyah Boston has undeniably regressed. During her Rookie of the Year season, she averaged 14 and 8 with a 58% field goal percentage. Her field goal percentage was the highest in the league. In the 5 games she's played, she has yet to score more than 12 points, get more than 8 rebounds, or shoot over 50% from the field. You can literally combine the season highs for her stats this year, and it would be less than her average stat line for the entirety of 2023, except for blocks. But it's not just the stats. Just from an eye test, you can tell there's a problem. Everything looks noticeably harder than it did just a year ago. She's missing shots that were money last year. She was more aggressive, she was faster. When you looked at Aliyah Boston last year, that's someone you watched and were like, dang, she's going to be a WNBA superstar. I think a big part of this is because she didn't participate overseas or in Athletes Unlimited. That's a long time to go without playing professional basketball. But that's not the only reason she's having issues. As more time passes, the more you have to wonder if Aliyah Boston can thrive in Indiana's new system. I thought for sure Aliyah Boston would look even better with Caitlin Clark. I thought since Caitlin Clark and Monica Cisnato worked so well together, Clark and Boston would be an unstoppable duo, but that hasn't been the case at all. The team seems to play faster and more together when Aliyah is not on the court. During her Rookie of the Year season, the team was built around Aliyah Boston. They completely changed the system when Caitlin Clark got there. Aliyah Boston went from the first option to arguably not even the 4th option on the team. Caitlin Clark's playstyle favors a run and gun, high possession per game type offense. Aliyah Boston isn't used to playing that way and won't thrive in that type of system. Aliyah Boston is having the same problem Diamond Miller is having. You have a really talented player that doesn't fit the team they are on, but the team is hesitant to trade them because they are worried they could become a superstar, which would negatively reflect on the organization. Aliyah Boston only played 15 minutes against the Seattle Storm, but had a team worse -18 plus minus. This isn't the only game where this has happened either. Temi Fagbenle has proven to be a much better fit for Caitlin Clark, which makes you wonder what direction the Indiana Fever will go in. There's a lot of talk about whether or not the Indiana Fever will trade Aliyah Boston. The dead giveaway will be if they do something to Victoria Saxton. She's on the team, so Aliyah has a former college teammate, so if something happens to her, it's a sign they might be shopping Aliyah. Personally, I would trade Boston. I could very easily see this becoming a Ben Simmons situation. I don't like the idea of Aliyah Boston taking several months of verbal abuse from newfound Indiana fans. We are seeing Aliyah's Boston's confidence getting destroyed in real time, and it's only going to get worse. Indiana is struggling because of Caitlin Clark's turnover issues and Aliyah's regression. But there is also another reason they are struggling that's completely inexcusable. Because it's so easy to fix. Someone please explain to me how. The Las Vegas Aces, the back-to-back champions, can find minutes for Kate Martin. But somehow the Indiana Fever thinks their roster is too good to play Grace Berger, Lexi Hull, and Celeste Taylor. Literally, the first video I did on this channel was talking about how Indiana should play Grace Berger more. Indiana knew they weren't going to win many games. Instead of Sides developing the only point guard they had at the time, she thought it was a good idea to only play her 15 minutes per game. One of the few things I agree with Christy Sides on is occasionally running Caitlin off the ball. A lot of people complain about it, but it's proven to cut her turnovers down, and she's still able to put up a bunch of shots. The problem is, Grace Berger is the only guard that is capable of setting up and executing the offense, but Christy has to make sure to get minutes for her faves instead. Lexi Hull's shooting has been inconsistent. There's no sugarcoating or getting around that. But what has been consistent is her defense. When she comes in, she guards the best perimeter scorer on the other team, and she does a good job. While Jewel Lloyd was making scrambled eggs of Christy Wallace and Erica Wheeler, Lexi Hull did a great job defending her. She only scored 2 shots on Lexi. She started 25 games last year, but now she's in the doghouse. And what the heck is going on with Celeste Taylor? She's the perfect player for Indiana's new system, and Caitlin Clark. She won ACC Defensive Player of the Year and Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. And she's on a team that, badly needs better defenders. They want to run a fast-paced offense, which Celeste Taylor thrived at in Ohio State. She's fast and plays with a high motor, which Indiana badly needs, and she can knock down open shots. So what does Sides decide to do? Not play her a single minute in any of the games. Awesome. So let's do a head count. Christy Sides had a 47% three-point shooter, and Indiana's second-best passer on the bench. She has her best perimeter defender sitting on the bench, and she has one of the best defenders in college basketball sitting on the bench. Indiana's defense is horrendous and is costing them games. I'm tired of hearing Sides talk about defense in her press conferences, when she has her best defenders on the bench. For who exactly? Erica Wheeler and Christy Wallace? Christy Sides is willing to bench Aliyah Boston, a former #1 pick, if she feels she's hurting the team. But Erica Wheeler and Christy Wallace have been allowed to screw up time and time again. It's clear she has favorites. Last but not least, the Indiana Fever have become the NBA equivalent of the Detroit Pistons. The Pistons this season were on pace to have a historic losing streak, which ended at 28 games. Part of this is because the team was just that bad, but there's another less obvious component. When you develop a bad losing streak like this, no one wants to be known as the team that loses to them, because they know the media will talk about it nonstop. The way they talk about Caitlin Clark in a loss, imagine what will happen if she cooks a team in a win. They will be all over First Take, Undisputed, Club Shay Shay, or anything else you want to name. No team wants to be on the wrong end of that. The Fever play the Sparks today in their home gym. Expect that to be a playoff-type atmosphere. It doesn't matter how good or bad the team Indiana plays, it will be difficult to win. That's it for this video. What do you think is the cause of the Fever's struggles? Is it bad team play, or does one person deserve a lion's share of the blame? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching.